Alright, so in this video, I'm going to be going over all of the details of the ship. So I have it broken up into its 3 cross sections to go over. So first I'll start with covering all of the different decks. So up here we have the boat deck, all the way at the top where like the lifeboats are and stuff. And the bridge is here. So under that we have the promenade deck here, or A deck. Then here is the B deck, which is called the bridge deck. We have the C deck, which is called the shelter deck. The D deck, which is the saloon deck. The upper deck E, middle F, and lower G. And then we also have Orlop and tank top. So in these lower decks were the storage rooms for the crew, the engine rooms, cargo rooms, baggage rooms, the mail room, the boiler rooms, and the engine rooms. And we could see the boiler / engine rooms here. In this section, a detail I missed in the first video, I covered it, was these are actually the coal chutes, where all the coal would be stored, and these little holes right here are where they would shovel the coal out from and shovel them right into the boilers. So I figured it out. These are the coal chutes, some catwalks here, and yeah. So once again, going through the details, all of these are first class rooms. We have the first class swimming pool right here. We have more first class rooms, some first class like suites and stuff. And then up here is the first class, I believe it's the, let's see. I think this is the reading lounge. Yes, this is the reading and writing lounge for first class. That's everything for this cross section here. Now if we're to move on to the other cross section of the ship. So in the back here, we have the first class smoking room, just a general restaurant. This is some first class rooms again. And then down lower, we have some second class rooms. So a second class room and a pantry for the second class where all their food was stored. Then once again, over here, we have the engine room of the ship, where the 2 engines that drove, or 3 engines, but only 2 are shown here, that drove the propellers are. And once again, a neat little detail is that you can turn this and you can see the engines going up and down. And if you look at the propeller at the back of the ship, you can see the propeller spinning as I turn this, which is a cool little detail there. So that is all the internal details. Now let's go over some details on the top of the ship. So I'm going to quickly just put everything back together, and I'll show that process here. So, pushing these together, then grabbing the locking mechanism, and inserting the pin in here. A little fiddly to get the pin in. There we go. And then just push it, and it goes all the way down. And now the front of the ship is all locked up together. And then it's the same thing with the stern, or back of the ship here. So we insert it here, push it in. It's hard to do with one hand, so bear with me. Okay, hold on, I need to put my phone down real quick. Just put the ship together. There we go. Okay, so once again, push the ship back together. We take the locking pin here, put it in, and push it down. And now the entire ship is locked as one solid piece. The last thing would be to connect the cable up top here. So we have this piece here, and we have the other piece of the cable over here. Now it is a little tricky to do this one-handed again, but I'll try it for a minute. see if I can do it. But it looks like I won't be able to. Yeah, so it's a bit tricky to do. But there we go. Lock that. And now this is drooping a little bit. So to get rid of that droop, we have this tightening pin right here. And we just tighten it up. And there we go. Now the cable there is nice and taut. And it looks good. So now to go over all the various details of the ship. So in the front, it covers the 3 anchors of the ship. So one here, one in here, and one on the other side. I think you can see it, yeah. There's the other anchor. Up here is the crow's nest of the ship where the lookouts were stationed, looking out. Now, the reason these lookouts didn't spot the iceberg is because at the last second, or last minute, whatever, some people were swapped around with who would be on the ship, and one of the officers holding a key to a lockbox where the binoculars were was swapped out, and he never got the key back on the ship. So these people in the lookout station were without binoculars for the ship, for the journey of the trip. So that's one of the reasons that the ship crashed. Here we have some cranes over here. More cranes over here for moving stuff around on the top deck. And this top deck in the front here was mostly accessible to the first class passengers. This area all over here. As well as all this top deck until like probably the midpoint. This was all for first class on the top deck here. We have the bridge right here where the captain drove the ship from. Yep. And we have the 2 lights, so there's a red one on this side and a green one, if I can find it, on this side. Yeah. And red and green always represent the port and starboard sides of the ship. So port is left and starboard is right. And the word starboard comes from, it used to mean like steer right, something like that. Because a lot of the captains were right-handed. And so when they were steering a rudder manually with their hand, they'd be holding the rudder with their right hand. So they steer right. And then port was just, if they steered to the right, they always came into port on the other side. So port and starboard. And those are always represented nautically with red and green lights on a ship. So moving on, we have a staircase here that would lead down to some lower decks, as well as on the other side. We see the ship has 16 lifeboats, so 4 and 4. And then in the back, another set of 8, 4 and 4 back here. There were also 4 more collapsible lifeboats, so they were smaller and they were kind of stored up here-ish near the smokestacks. Those aren't represented in the model. Now, moving on, we have the first smokestack here. This was connected to boilers, so you'd see steam coming out of it. And these first 3 smokestacks were all connected up to the boilers. The 4th smokestack, however, was not connected to anything. It was only there for the aesthetic appeal of the ship. So inside that 4th smokestack was actually just an escape ladder all the way down to the engine room, where, you know, people could escape up and climb up through this 4th smokestack. This smokestack never emitted steam or smoke. Only the front 3 did. So that's a cool little detail. This one wasn't needed. It was just there to make the ship look nicer. Over here, we have the grand staircase. So the dome for the grand staircase is under this entrance, like little light hatch here. And then right there, let's see. Let me pull up my plans again for the ship. So we have the grand staircase there. And yeah, so this is probably like the reading and writing room, like lounge area right here. As we go back more, like over here-ish, it's probably the gym somewhere in this area or over here. Second smokestack now, so we're about halfway down the ship. This, as I've talked about before, was where the main compass of the ship was held. So the main compass was all the way up here because the iron of the hull, they didn't want to affect the compass reading. So they had it up on this elevated platform where it wouldn't be affected by the hull of the ship because it's made of a lot of iron. Then we have the third smokestack here. And here is some little engine casing for some part. I think this engine actually was for steering the rudder because the rudder was so massive on the ship that it needed its own engine to turn it. So I think this is what this engine casing did. This was the engine that steered the rudder. Here is probably where that reading lounge is, or the smoking lounge. One of them in this room here. Or it could be one of the dining rooms, although I think the dining rooms were a bit lower down on the ship. Here is the top dome for the second grand staircase that was smaller, probably like 3 or 4 flights of stairs rather than in the front where it was a lot more. But yeah, there was a second smaller grand staircase in the ship, and this is where that dome was, under that. Once again, here we have the fourth smokestack, which once again had no functional purpose, was just there to look good. And then we have the back of the ship. So let me pull up my notes and see what I have about the back of the ship here. So it looks like this actually was an elevator housing. So this is where the gear for the elevator was, so that the elevator can go up and down. So that's what this little tower is here. So there's another central elevator that goes down the back of the ship here. Yeah, and then we get to the back of the ship, or the stern. So the front is the bow, and this is the stern. Also, that's the fore of the ship and the aft of the ship. So we have some cranes here. So we have 6 different cranes on the back of the ship here. And we also have this little platform that once again houses this gear in the Lego set to tighten and loosen the rope in between there. Yeah, the back of the ship, this is where third-class passengers were allowed on the top deck. So only in this back section were they allowed to be on the deck. And I didn't cover it, but second-class passengers were allowed in this area. So right between like the middle and back of the ship, second-class passengers were allowed on this top deck. Yeah, we also have some benches throughout the ship here on this front deck, or on this top deck. Yeah, and looking at it from the back, we have this nice view. And once again, down here we have the ship's 3 propellers, one more over here, and the big rudder for the ship, which does rotate. Also, Titanic, and it says Liverpool, because that is where it set out from, or White Star Line. The company of the ship was housed, I guess. Some more benches over here, staircase up to this little platform area. And now I'm just going to go slowly over the ship just to see all of the details of the railings and the top deck here. So, just going through all of this detail here. They did put a lot of detail on top of the ship, and they were very accurate in this ship here, in the detailing of the ship. And it looks very good. So, that is everything for my Titanic build set. Also, once again, the plaque here, Titanic, and the name derives from Titan, which were the gods before the Roman gods took over, which were just, more powerful gods than the Roman gods. So Titan, Titanic, and yeah, this is the final ship. From afar, it doesn't even look like a Lego. Just looks like a model of the ship. The final length is 53 inches across, so it's very big. But yeah, 9,090 pieces, and just about 24 hours later, and this is the model we are left with. So that is everything for the set. Hope you all enjoyed, and goodbye.